Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to the people who make headlines around the world. Today we talk to a survivor of domestic abuse. This story, though, is quite different. Alex Skeel said he was 10 days away from death before he was helped and saved by his neighbours, police and the medics. Skeel, 22, from Bedfordshire, has urged other victims in abusive relationships to speak out after his partner, Jordan Worth, 22, subjected him to years of multiple physical injuries, denied him of food, isolated him from his family, and destroyed his life. Well, he's now back on top and able to talk about it to help others, and I'm delighted to say that Alex Skeel joins us on the phone now. And my first question, how are you, Alex?
Yes, very well, very well.
Help me with the question that everybody asks is, why didn't you just pack your bags and leave? Nobody can understand that, but I think they forget the drip-drop effect of time, don't they? That this doesn't happen overnight.
No, it's long-lasting control, and it just builds up, and then you can't get out. You feel suffocated, and it's very hard. And I was isolated from friends, family. I didn't have a phone, I didn't have any money, my wallet, I had nothing. I was only wearing the clothes that I was wearing when I come home. So that suggests that it was virtually impossible. I could have ran, but when I was told if I ran away, would have died. She would have killed me. So what do I want to do? It was impossible. It's very hard to explain unless you've been in the situation.
How old were you when you met Jordan?
16.
When was it that you knew that something was wrong and that the behaviour that you were experiencing wasn't right?
Well, looking back early on, it was like she would sort of disappear when we went on holiday. She did it on a few occasions, and one time it was with my family, so we were going around London trying to find her, and then the other one was, and it was just me and her going to Egypt, and she just went missing. And I think from very early on, she wanted to try and make me play a game, really, and try and make me want to know where she was, make me panicked. So yeah, and when I moved out of my family home and moved into her family home, the psychological started then. I weren't allowed to contact my family. It developed more and more. When we moved out into our own place, that's when the physical abuse started to happen.
What do you think was her agenda? Why would she want to do this? I find that fascinating.
I have absolutely no idea. And I've been asked that question a lot of times, and I've answered it exactly the same. I don't know.
It just doesn't make sense, does it? Any of it? None of it makes sense.
No, it's crazy, really. She's never said why she did it. She accused me of lying, but that is it. There's nothing other than that. I was just lying.
Was there ups and downs with the abuse in terms of her apology and then it getting worse again and getting better and getting worse? Or was her abuse completely consistent?
No, she never apologised for what she did. And if I said, please help me, she'd just reply with, go and die. And I'd be bleeding from my head, and it was just going everywhere. And I'd literally beg her for help, and all she would reply with as she walked up the stairs was, go and die, no one likes you. And that's the most belittling thing anyone can ever, especially in that situation as well, where you need the help.
Do you feel sorry for her at this point? I mean, what she did is unforgivable, but she's obviously mentally ill, isn't she? She's obviously a person that has got terrible anger issues, and there's something must have happened to her, or was she just born evil? Where are you with sort of her psychosis at this point?
Well, I don't know, and I'm not really that bothered.
Right.
I don't really want to waste my energy on thinking about her, to be honest, because there's no need. What she's done is, what happened, and she's been punished for that, and deservedly.
Were there people in your family who tried to help and step in, and were you unable to listen to them? Because I'm sure people can tell when there's something not quite right. I'm not saying they would have known the extent of this abuse. Were there points when your family tried to help?
Not really. They always they couldn't. They knew that psychologically it wouldn't be very good, but they've said since that they had no idea that it was physical, and if they did, they'd have obviously done something. I mean, the neighbours, they tried and they tried and they tried. They said to me, since I've met up with them a few times since I've come out of the situation, said, we're really sorry, but we didn't know what way around it was. We we couldn't gauge it until we started to hear more of the detail of what was being said. It became obvious, alongside me walking out the house every day with a different injury, limping or with a cut or something, that it was actually me being abused. So they tried, and they constantly rang the police, but yeah, so apart from my neighbours, no one really would have been even a tiny bit aware.
How long into the relationship did you sort of feel that there was no way of recovering it? Was that 18? Was it 19? Or was it immediately? When did it become too much?
It was when it was sort of maybe a few months into the physical. So I would have been, 2021,
Wow.
2021, and I was halfway through the physical, and I was just then hoping just the next minute would be better than the last, and that was all I was clinging on to, because I knew that my body was getting weaker and weaker. I wasn't allowed to eat or anything, and the injuries were being left untreated, so I could hardly walk. It was horrible, and to think that you're just hoping that the next minute's better, that's not a way to live, but that's how I lived. So
I wonder if there was ever a point through any of this where you considered hitting back or something even more brutal to stop her. Were you totally submissive and unable to retaliate, or were there periods that you tried, or did you just have to take every single punch?
I was more or less trying to protect my head from hammers and being backed in the corner with kettles to even have a chance to run away, let alone do anything else. And I wouldn't have done anything else, because that's not the nature of my character.
Right.
And I think that's what she preyed upon, because she knew I wouldn't do anything about it. And she knew that she kept getting away with it and away with it. I wouldn't call anyone, I wouldn't tell anyone. And it just kept developing more and more, because she knew that's not the type of person I am to speak out. That's what she thought anyway, but obviously I've become stronger now, and I've been able to talk about it and speak to people because I want to help.
What amazes me about your story is this sort of millennial issue that we put on Facebook, that we're the hottest, happiest couple in the world. We put on Instagram that we're the sexiest, most beautiful, most stable person in the world. We put on Twitter that we're enjoying our lives, flying around the world. Yet behind closed doors, the reality can be very different. I mean, that was certainly the case with you, wasn't it? She was very clever at putting a facade out there that everything was perfectly fine.
Yeah, there would have been no one other than me that would have known that any of this was going on. No one else would have known. She put a very, very good front on. She made a new Facebook for me and just completely controlled it herself, so no one would have known.
Wow.
It was very cleverly done. So everyone would have just thought it was all lovely and rosy, but behind closed doors, my neighbours completely knew a different story. So
let's talk about sort of from 18, 19 years. So we're 2 years into the relationship. Was there anything normal about it at that point, or was it totally ridiculous? Now you look back at what was going on. Were there moments of happiness? You mentioned the holidays. Were they tortuous too?
Well, there was just these little weird episodes. They were never violent, never physically violent, nothing like that. But it was just strange psychological sort of episodes. Like, she would tell me that my granddad had died, and she said that her mum got the text. So straight away you think, true. So I was crying, I was upset, and I was upset for a good few hours. And then she goes, why are you upset for? I said, because you just told me that the person I'm closest to in this whole world has died. And she goes, well, I was lying, so why do you care? And that sort of going from believing that that person's passed away to then realising they're alive is actually worse than finding out in the first place, because you're then so psychologically confused you can't explain it. You're sort of thinking, what do I believe now? How can I ever believe anything anymore if it's that easy? And the fact that she said that, do you want to go and talk to her mum about it, made it even more believable. So what if I did go downstairs and speak about it? It would have been like, well, it made a mockery out of me. It was just a way of trying to belittle me somehow.
What was her agenda? Do you think it was to give her kicks from your pain? Was it some narcissistic control? Has anybody established medically what her agenda was?
I mean, I wasn't at court, and the psychiatric report was come back, there's nothing wrong. She was fine. So I think it was just obsession, maybe. I don't know, but it's not. I'm not proud in the slightest to say that she was obsessed, because look what happened to me just because she was obsessed. It was not.
Yeah, I don't buy that. And then we move forward to you right now. When this story broke, I know you were very keen to help others. I suspect that you've been contacted since by people who are in or have been in a similar situation. This isn't as rare as we would think.
No, it's funnily enough, I've said it a lot actually to a number of people. It's when I was doing it, I was thinking, someone's going to be watching this right now, and they probably could have just been hurt, or they're recovering from an injury, or someone's abusing them right at this second. I don't know. But it's actually the ones that message you saying, hello, thank you for what you've done. It's made me speak about my experiences that I experienced 10, 20 years ago. So it's not just the people that have happened now. It's about people opening up a past that's still haunting them this many years on, but I've been able to help them speak to their friends and family about it, because they know that someone's comfortable in doing it, and it's made them comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
So that's really proud that I've been able to do that, because initially I was only thinking of the people, warning people, this is not right, and also people that are in it, not people that have been in it and moved on with their lives and probably have started a family and they're happy, but it's still at the back of their head. So to help them is actually amazing, because that must be such a horrible thing to keep in your mind for that long. So I'm just really pleased that I didn't think that wasn't something that I thought I would. They were not the type of person I thought I'd be helping. It's just I thought it was people in the now, but thankfully I've helped every type, because I've had every type of message.
Let's go back to that night in June when the neighbour called the police to help you. I wonder why they didn't do it earlier, and whether we should, if our instinct says there's something not right, keep calling 999 until something happens. It's a very awkward position, isn't it? Because when you've somebody saying there's nothing wrong, and you know there is or feel there is, it's a tricky situation. Had that call not happened, you said you were 10 days away from death.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a precipice, isn't it?
I think the whole combination of that night saved my life. Definitely did. Because and I've spoke to them since, and they said, well, when we were doing it, we sort of, do we get involved, do we not? It's obviously not right.
Right.
But it's obviously such a dodgy subject for them to. You don't want to be nosy neighbours, do you? But they were nosy neighbours for the right reasons, and they managed to get a police officer involved. He took me to the hospital. Other events happened, so I didn't get treated. Went back home again, and then a week later, the same police officer come back again because the neighbours called.
Right.
And then eventually he got me to admit what was going on, and it wasn't necessarily I told him. He knew what was going on, this police officer, and he said to me, I know that you're getting hurt, I just need you to tell me, because you and her need help.
Right.
So, and then he turned his camera off, and that was it. I told him straight away.
Yeah. There is a double standard, isn't there, that if this was a man beating a woman, the public would probably react differently.
Yeah, I did a talk Tuesday, and I said there was professionals there, and there were people recovering that used the service for the place that I was doing the talk at, the mental health, and I said, dare I say it, but if I was a woman walking into a hospital with a boyfriend, with burns up my arms, cuts on my shins, literally my whole body was battered, bruises, black eyes, they wouldn't have let me walk out of that hospital if I was a girl. That's the difference. That's what people need to understand. Yes, you might be a different gender, but people can still be capable of doing all of this thing, because it's a knife, it's a weapon.
And it makes no difference whether you're a man, woman, black, white. It makes absolutely no difference.
It doesn't matter how strong you are. If that's in your hand, you are stronger than that person, because they can't do anything about it.
Alex, let me talk about you right now as we sit here chatting today. You seem completely normal. You seem completely rational. You seem completely on top of what you've been through. Are you?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I obviously have moments, but I can't blame myself for that, because I've been through so much, and it's never going to leave you, but I've been able to. I can manage it now, and I can cope with it. And every time I speak about it, it helps me, because I'm starting to talk about it. And when I'm talking about it, it's almost as if I'm not talking about myself anymore. It's like I'm talking about a story that I wasn't part of, but I know every part of that story.
Yeah. And as for her, how long did she go to jail for?
7.5 years.
So she could be out in 3-4 years. Do you even think about that?
No.
Okay. Will there be an injunction that she can't contact you? Because that's the last thing you need.
She's got a lifelong indefinite restraining order against me. So she cannot, if she breaks that, obviously she gets into serious trouble. So she shouldn't ever go near me for the rest of my life.
I get nervous when I watch people like Oprah Winfrey, because she's far more evolved than me, and she says you must forgive people and you must always be the better man and you should always let people back into your life and all of this stuff. There are certain instances where that, of course, isn't the case, and I think this is one of them. Do you have any sympathy, forgiveness, understanding? Where are you at with her right now as we sit here?
She's done what she's done and she's been punished. There's nothing I can do or anyone can do. She's done wrong. And she's been told off for doing wrong, and I don't need to sit here and waste my time thinking about her, because it will just, I need to keep looking forward. There's no point looking back.
And a somewhat leading question, but a punishment of what will probably be 3 or 4 years in jail for what she put you through, do you think that that's a satisfactory conclusion to the abuse you suffered?
Yeah. Any just punishment, any prison time would have been punishment, and I'm pleased because she deserves to serve that time, because I was imprisoned myself for a number of years. So for her to go through it, and bear in mind I have always said I wouldn't wish her to go through what I've been through, because it's that bad, but for her to just be in a prison and just be in that environment, I'm very pleased, because I was in a environment. She's better off. She really is. I went through worse, but she's being punished for what she's done, and I'm just glad I've got the justice.
Yeah, no amount of punishment could be worse than what you went through. My last question has to be about your future. At what point can you forgive in your heart to let someone else back in and begin your life again with a new partner? Is that even on the cards? Is that even possible?
Well, obviously you're not gonna deny that. It's gonna happen probably, so just time will tell. Obviously not now, but in the future it will probably happen. So
are you ready to love again? Could you trust someone again?
I will be, and yeah, it'll be difficult, but not everyone's going to be like her, are they? So
I don't think the chances of you meeting another girl like that is possible, quite frankly, in one lifetime. That would be unfathomable, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And your happiness now, are you surrounded by family and friends? Is this how you get through day by day?
Yeah, family, friends. I go to work on the odd occasion, and I'm just keeping myself busy.
For those listening to this now who are hearing alarm bells and they can see similarities in their life, what is the step? Because you couldn't get yourself out of it. We must remember this, that it's easy for us to talk now about your bravery and all of that stuff, but the abuse was so abhorrent, was so overwhelming, you couldn't walk away. Is there anything you could say to someone now to give them the strength to go to the neighbour and knock on the door, opposed to have to scream for the neighbour to come to them?
Yes. You need to talk to someone if you're in the situation, whether that's your neighbour, your GP, your dentist, the person walking their dog across the road every morning, anybody. But then on the flip side, it's everyone else's responsibility to make sure that they're looking into things like this, because it could be anyone, your friend, son, cousin, brother, uncle, it could be anyone.
And we mustn't have a snooper's charter when neighbours are sticking their nose in, but if you're hearing screaming day in and day out, there has to be a point where you react, surely.
Yeah, exactly. If it's completely obvious, which in my situation it was, because of what was being screamed, you need to act upon it. You really do, because you don't want to have the responsibility of potentially knowing that it could end fatally for the person, and you don't want to live with that on your conscience for the rest of your life. You need to go with your gut. That's what I say. If you hear anything and you don't think that it's right, go and try and sort it out. Either way, girl getting abused, boy getting abused, it doesn't matter. You need to sort it out, because it's not right, and you have a duty to care for others. And I feel that if I was a neighbour, even before this, and I heard something, I would go, because what the stuff those neighbours heard, I wouldn't want anyone to hear, because it was that bad.
Yeah, terrible.
So I just feel it's everybody's responsibility to act upon this.
What is to stop this girl doing this again? Do you think she will? Do you think she's learnt a lesson? Was there any remorse? Has anybody told you how she reacted in court?
She didn't react in court. She wasn't sorry. She just pled guilty. She said I didn't do anything wrong and there was nothing that I could have done to provoke her, and I was completely innocent and everything. But she never apologised, and she just accepted responsibility, but that's not an apology.
That sounds like the conscience of an evil person if they can't see after it's pointed out to them. That's an extraordinary confidence she's got.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. It's the same with like the front she put on with everybody else. She could have this double life, and it's almost as if she's very clever at manipulating people, and very clever at putting a different front on to please whoever that person is.
I started at the beginning by saying this is a movie in the making. Has anybody approached you about telling your life story in some form of TV documentary? It is incredible what you've been through, and I think even a TV adaptation would have to be toned down because people wouldn't believe that nobody came to help.
No, I know next week that I'm speaking to a few people about documentaries, and I've had a lot of offers, but it's just about choosing the right one, because I don't want to fabricate anything. I want to stick to the truth. And if
I think quite the opposite. I think you'd have to tone it down. I think.
Yeah, well,
I don't know about fabricated.
I completely get that, but if someone said to me, and this is me being completely serious, we want to make a drama out of it, I would say, right, you make a drama out of it, but you don't change it. You do exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Because that is far... If people see that, that will open so many cans of worms, it's unbelievable. So if anyone was to approach me, I would say exactly what I've said to you right now. You don't change the story, you keep it to the facts, and that's it.
Alex, if people want to contact you, is there a way of them getting hold of you that's sort of in the public domain of Facebook or some way that people can reach you?
Yeah, I have Twitter. It's at Skeel Alex, or just put Alex Skeel in. It will come up. If you just read my bio, it will say that I'm a domestic violence speaker, and that's me. And I'll be more than happy for people to ask me questions or whatever. That's absolutely fine.
It has been enlightening and completely compelling speaking to you. I've spoke to many people over the years in my 25-year career who've had extraordinary lives, and you're up there with the most extraordinary. Your strength and your tenacity and your bravery is overwhelming. I thank you for your time. Alex Skeel is on Twitter. You can find him there. I've got a feeling your life now will be defined by what you've been through, and the many, many people you're going to help, I think, will be incredible. So thank you for that, Alex. You could have done this privately and quietly, and I'm sure you never needed to have been named if you hadn't have wanted to be, and to take that choice is very selfless and incredible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.